Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and the last of our videos here covering the Voss territories. So one of the neat things with the expansion is that we do get access to a new creature here, and that's called the Skuhlzecki, which is called the Hot-Headed Ice Borer. So it has some neat abilities here. Again, we're just going to leave that there for a second so you can see the stats. But let's get into what these actually are. These are basically like a weird type of Arctic worm here. And again colloquially known as the hot-headed ice borer, lives only on the cold plains and steppes of Vosgard. So as if it wasn't dangerous enough to be adventuring here and running a campaign, you have again natural dangers too. So living within the thick permafrost of northern Cerealia, the ice borer spends its life hunting for food, reaching a maximum length of 2 feet at adulthood, and that's already plenty scary enough. The Skuhlzecki remain among Vosgard's most dangerous predators. The round, segmented worm has a bony, flat plate on the top of its head and a round, tooth-filled mouth. It has no visible eyes, ears, or nose, and the creature's skin is as tough as cowhide but is entirely hairless. They move by burrowing in snow or permafrost. They can't burrow through solid ice. However, because of a concentration of blood vessels beneath the bony plate in its head, it can cause the plate to grow exceedingly hot. Any creature touching this plate suffers D4 damage from a scalding burn. And then the heated plate turns the snow ahead of the ice borer to slush, allowing it to push or burrow its way through the snow. In the frigid habitat that it has, this narrow tunnel of slush freezes behind it almost immediately, closing off the worm's path. So it does kind of, in a certain sense, can make them somewhat easy to spot if you see that sort of like path of slush, but again, it's going to freeze really quickly again too, so not necessarily as obvious as it might otherwise be. They're believed to be blind, right, since they don't have any eyes, but they have this superior ability to sense vibrations, and when a pack of them senses a disturbance, so think of these almost as like ice piranhas in a sense, is probably a good way to look at it. They basically burrow within about a foot of the surface to investigate, and if they discover prey, they swarm beneath the victim from below, moving in like sharks. And then working together, a number of the creatures can quickly melt the snow below the victim and basically create a trap, almost like quicksand, but like slush that will then freeze. They then wait until the creature begins foundering in the mush before attacking. A saving throw versus petrification is allowed to determine whether a character can jump aside. So they attack with their powerful teeth and jaws. They bite victims from below and then dragging them further into the snow. And basically you have to make a swimming non-weapon proficiency check to move out of an ice borer's reach. And these checks suffer a -2 penalty for each one on the attack, so it really can go pretty nasty pretty quickly against you. As they chew away at a victim, its incredible metabolism processes the meal quickly. Meat and fat are digested in minutes and move directly into the bloodstream or stored in fat reserves. As soon as the creature stops feeding, all digested food is converted to fat stores. The creatures are believed to have several stomachs which can hold food stores for later digestion. One of these appears to be a blood sac that swells after the creature feeds. Whether the blood stored here is the creature's own or that of its victims is still up for debate. Now, battling against one of these, or a whole pack, is difficult. They attack from below, so they can't be detected by normal means, and when they strike, they get a +4 bonus to their chance of surprise. Shields are pretty much useless, right? Actually, so resulting in an AC deduction. Slashing and most piercing weapons can be used to effectively fight them, but as long as the creatures remain hidden in the snow, it's basically like almost attacking something that's invisible, so -4 to hit. Magical methods of seeing invisible creatures don't help, right, because they're not really truly invisible, although X-ray vision would, right? Bludgeoning weapons only cause half damage, since the snow and slush tend to weaken most of the blows. And there's a good kind of picture of an attack from them, right? And be pretty damn frightening, just to suddenly, again, kind of deal with like what would essentially be like getting into quicksand, but here in the freezing cold, right? So should an ice borer tunnel to the surface, it will be much easier to fight. The creature is AC 10. Again, thinking back to, again, this is 2nd edition, so really it's like the worst AC that they could have, right? So a little bit of porting over to 5th or whatever you're playing may be necessary, but basically should be pretty easy to deal with once they're up above. If a blow kills one that has already fed, basically if it's caused more than 3 points damage, To a victim, its heated blood sac will explode in a 5-foot radius and then cause 2d4 points of damage. You can save versus paralyzation to avoid. And an ice boar lying on the surface of the snow will cease attacks and spend one round flipping over, and the next using its hot head to dive back into the snow. If unable to do so for some reason, it crawls inchworm-like toward ice and snow at its above-ground movement rate. So basically, if you can get them above the surface, they're kind of somewhat helpless for a little while, but really their forte is obviously sort of ambush attacks from below. They do live in small packs beneath the snow in the permafrost. They spend most of their time hunting, obviously, and attacks tend to be more severe in the winter months, less frequent in the warmer months, right? Obviously, less snow to manipulate. And they kind of hibernate if the weather does get too warm. Their lairs, however, have never been discovered, and that could be an interesting sort of quest for some reason to maybe capture one intact for study. But scholars assume that the creatures breed by laying eggs, much like other worms. Encounters with young ones have never been reported. It's believed that because of their high metabolisms, they grow to adulthood within a very, very short time. And then the last little bit here, ice boars will attack anything that attracts their attention. They will eat any warm-blooded creature, but seldom attack creatures smaller than a halfling or dwarf. They don't collect treasure, though their victims' goods and gear tend to fall through the snow, so you could kind of have a little bit of a sort of a treasure trail in that sense. They are unique to Vosgard, thankfully, so you don't see them in any other areas in Cerealia, but that's still fertile ground where a DM could maybe create variants of them that maybe we find if we're exploring other sort of far north areas that are somewhat off the map, and there are a few that we'll eventually get to at some point as well. But interesting little monster, nice sort of terrifying extra bit to throw in here for moving around and adventuring in and around Vosgard, as if it wasn't dangerous enough. You have these things to deal with. So let us know again, guys, if you've incorporated these into your campaign, or if that's given you some ideas on how to bring that into either like a homebrew, or if you actually are adventuring in Vosgard, you have this to contend with as well. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.